My son is having a hard time falling asleep. We're doing more traditional YouTube, old YouTube, which is talking on a camera. Because after all, it's YouTube. It's a place to broadcast yourself. You know, the first time I ever heard of YouTube, this shows its age, was in a newspaper. It was June or July, because I was at the camp, and my family used to always spend time at the camp in the summers. And it was talking about how in April of that year, there was a new website that had just launched called YouTube. And my mom was telling me about this newspaper article. And I was immediately, because, you know, as I am now as a kid, I was equally as interested in video and wanted to be a director. And prior to that, there was no place to showcase any video work, not easily, on the internet. You know, I was recording my videos to an old VHS. Well, actually, at that time, I had my high 8 tapes. And, you know, I was just editing stuff on Windows Media, or Windows Movie Maker. And if I wanted to show somebody my video, I had to gather them around my computer or give them a flash drive with the video on it. They'd have to load it up. You know, it was this whole process. So my mom was telling me about this new website that had launched just April of that year called YouTube. And immediately when I got home, which was, you know, probably about a month later, because we usually spent about a month at the camp around that time. And back then we didn't have internet access at the camp. It was just classic phone landline, and I don't know, that worked intermittently. Anyway, so I immediately made a YouTube channel, Keller Smeller, which was the name of a website that I had, that my dad had kind of gifted me for Christmas. Which, that's a whole story. My website was, I updated it regularly, even though no one ever went to it. I think I even had business cards for it that I'd gotten, because back then, they probably still do it now, but you could get like a bunch of free business cards from Vistaprint. I think you just had to pay for the shipping, which was like $5 or something like that. Anyways, I had a website, and it was just full of random facts, and I would just copy and paste random facts from websites that I would scour for, and I'd update it. And at one point, I had like a really, really significant collection of random facts on that page. Anyways, what was I talking about? Websites. Yeah, Keller Smeller. So I made the channel Keller Smeller, and I immediately started posting videos. I was really inspired by some of the original legends, such as Smosh. I was really inspired by this guy, Mr. Safety. I was watching SXE Phil, which is now Philip DeFranco, but back then he was SXE Phil. And yeah, it really just it just catapulted me into the world of video in a way that, you know, like I was able to see early on that there was more to content creation. We didn't even really have that term back then, but there was more to content creation than just being a director. You know, traditionally, if you were into video, you would go into TV broadcasting or into the film industry. Both of them were as competitive as they are now. In fact, they're more competitive now. But yeah, so I immediately could see, even though they didn't monetize on YouTube for another couple of years, I could just see people having fan meetups. I remember 2008 is really when YouTube got its legs, because that was about the time that they started having partnerships, so really early monetization. That was also the era where some of these early channels had built up enough of a fan base that they could do these meetups, like these meet and greets. I specifically remember seeing Philip DeFranco do one of his first meetups, and it kind of blew my mind, because it was, you know, I felt like such a small audience for him. You know, no YouTubers did numbers like they did today. And he did a meetup, and like 16 people showed up. You know, he announced where he was going to be, and he was going to meet fans, and like 16 or, you know, like 15 to 20 people showed up to it. And it blew my mind. I was like, that's insane that you could be that famous on the internet, which is funny to think now. You know, if Phil DeFranco did a meetup he would have to have security and a giant venue, and I mean it'd be potentially thousands of people. It's just a different world. But back then, the 2 million views was like a unbelievable viral video, and now 2 million views on a video is like kind of, that's what you have to get regularly in order to make a good living on the platform. But anyways, yeah, I had Killer Smeller, and it's funny because this is kind of the reverse. Back in the day, so I had another channel. I don't know. I had another channel for a while, for like one summer, called KS Films. And on KS Films, I was very much copycatting, again, what I had seen Philip DeFranco do. I was really into this idea of like a talk show almost, like current events. And I would talk about current events. I remember I would just open up a couple magazines that we had in our living room, and I would get on camera and I would just talk about them and sort of emulate a salacious character, if you will. I would be very reactionary to the stuff I was reading. And it didn't feel like it was going anywhere. I started doing some vlogging. I think I did weekly videos. So it was like a mix between vlogging and current events. I mean, it was honestly an identical ripoff of Philip DeFranco's channel at the time, Sexy Phil. And I was like, man, this just isn't going anywhere. And I had, this is what's crazy. I got to explain this part first of why I quit. I remember thinking, this isn't going anywhere. And then somebody at school, at my high school, I was freshman year in high school. This was the summer from 8th grade into freshman year. Somebody in school said, hey, I just found your videos. And they said something to me that I don't even think was them like trying to necessarily make fun of me. They were just sort of saying like, what a quirky thing that you're doing, making these videos. And I just my fragile little high school ego, for some reason, cracked when I found out that someone was watching my videos who I knew in real life, because there was that, and like I liked the idea of being an online personality, but I didn't have the confidence yet to like own that, I guess. I don't know. It's a weird thing to reflect on now, but you had to be a teenager. You have to have been a teenager to know, which most of you probably were, or are maybe even. But somebody was like, yeah, I saw your stuff, and it cracked, and I went and I deleted the whole channel. I just panicked, and I never went back. But why I bring it up is because at that time, when I think back, I was getting thousands of views per video, but I didn't see any value in that, because I was seeing at that time, that would have been 2009, 2010. That would have been 2008. I was also seeing channels with like 20,000 views per video, 100,000 views per video. So my few measly 1,000 views felt so insignificant, and it felt like I wasn't even getting anywhere. And so I deleted the channel, and I think back sometimes. If I had powered through, if that person hadn't said that to me, or if I had a different reaction and I just kept going, because I was I was in on the game so early, who knows? Who knows what that channel could be now, That could have been, that was like, that is my equivalent story of saying that you sold your Apple stock at, $12 a share. Or $5 a share. Because now the nature, the climate of the internet is so saturated that to get thousands of views per video is a much trickier place to get. And even if you're at that, your growth ramp potential is a lot less likely. Versus back then, there were there were still a lot of people on YouTube, but comparatively, there were vast less creators, vastly less people who were making it, who were doing a channel, right? There's a lot of people posting one-off videos of them doing this or them doing that, but there was nobody who was like, had an intro, like I had an intro, I had my thing, I was doing weekly videos, I had a banner design, I had a custom logo, I had an outro. I mean, I was really structured. That was super rare at the time, but I just didn't appreciate that. I don't know. It's something, I wouldn't say I like kick myself for it, right? I mean, ultimately, who cares? And it's hard to say that anything would have ever come from it. So I wouldn't say it's like a regret, but it is definitely something where I think back and I'm like, man, dude, can you imagine if I just kept going on KS Films? Anyways, to go back to Keller Smeller, which is where that channel's still up, by the way. You can go search for Keller Smeller and you can find some classics, some classic old, you know, freshman year high school sketch comedy from me. But Keller Smeller was a similar thing where my rate of growth at the time was substantial enough that if I had never gone to college or if I had never lost interest in the channel and I kept pushing it, it could have been something. I don't think it had the same legs that KS Films did, because KS Films, I just totally captured an audience, you know, like I had a little audience going. I had a little community, but yeah, I don't know. I just couldn't appreciate, I didn't have the context at the time of what that would be. You know, I just thought of it as like you have a few thousand subscribers and you have a few thousand people viewing your videos. But I didn't really, you know, today that is valuable. If you play that just right, a few thousand viewers per video is a potential, I mean, it's an income for sure. And not a quit your day job income, but it's an income. So just wild to think about, you know. But I've been on YouTube since day one. Not posting videos consistently. I mean, I was posting videos the very first year that it was a platform. But, you know, I obviously took a huge break between 2016 and let's call it 2011, 2012 maybe was probably the last time. So there was a good like 4 or 5 year gap. And then obviously now, you know what the gig is. I haven't stopped since. But you know, I've talked about this in a lot of videos, and it used to bother me a lot for some reason. I think because people were like hitting on somewhat of a soft spot for me. It's kind of like, just people used to tell me like, oh, you should go, why don't you go full time? Like, why don't you make money off of your videos? And it's always like, it's frustrating is not the word that I would use now, but it definitely would be the word that I would have used back then. Or, you know, back then, like 3 years ago. Because what it is a misunderstanding of just the internet, and a misunderstanding of how saturated it is. So, like, even if you think you're watching a small-time creator, although I'm willing to bet there's nobody you're watching who is more small-time than me now, you'll find that even if you think you're watching a small-time creator who has like 2,000 to 4,000 subscribers, that is still, you're still watching the probably top 20% of all the channels on YouTube. So when you're looking at a bigger channel that has 100,000 subscribers, that's like the 1%. You know, just because there are so many people doing it. I often use the example of professional sports because that seems to resonate with people a little bit more, in that there's data to back this up, but especially for Twitch streaming. But to make a full-time living off of YouTube or a Twitch streamer is a % of a % chance equivalency to becoming a pro NFL athlete. So if you have a child and they're saying, I want to become a professional football player in the NFL, it's likely you would say, well, that's really statistically unlikely and you should have a backup, right? I mean, that's what most people would say. But now, if you understand that you have a grossly higher percentage chance of making it in the NFL than you do making a full-time living on the internet, you know, you wouldn't be so quick to agree. Now, the numbers are bigger, right? You have a lot of people on the platform. You see a lot of creators, but you know, that's including numbers of people who just upload videos, just in like one-offs or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know, kind of losing my train of thought, but the point is it's really unlikely. But I think that chasing money, like this is something that I've talked to students and just other people about, is there's a lot of ways that you can make money off of your YouTube content that isn't directly from monetization. You know, like it's a great way, even if you don't have the numbers to make some sort of sponsorship money. It is a great way to showcase your portfolio to a small, more niche group of people, which is why, like, I used to work on a lot of short films in college that had, you know, significant budgets. I mean, people would raise 20, 30, 40, 50, sometimes $100,000 to make their movie. And there'd be so much time and effort, and there'd be so many people working on the project, and it would go for so long, and they'd have it edited, but then they would never post it on YouTube, because for some reason they thought if they give it away for free, they'll never be able to monetize it. Nobody will ever buy it because they want to sell it to somebody who wants exclusive rights to it, which is traditionally how the movie industry has been. But you know, democratizing your content, you're probably not going to make money off of your one video, but you could make money off of your entire career collections video. And that's been my more recent sort of philosophy, because I've made a lot more money off of the work that the jobs, whether it's, you know, permanent employment or one-off contract jobs, I've made a lot more money off of myself, I think, having done so much exposure, whether it's on Facebook or even just on this channel. I've had a lot of people reach out to me saying they've come across my content and they, you know, want to hire me. And yeah, I don't know. That's just like what I encourage a lot of young artists of any kind to do, is like just put yourself out there, because you know, there's a lot of indirect ways that you can make money, but that's always changing. And I'm starting to turn into sort of an old, out of touch dad from the industry. So that advice, I think, has changed a lot. Like, I don't necessarily know if posting videos on Facebook is the way to do it anymore. YouTube is kind of a joke now, you know, because it's so hard to discover new people. The algorithm is always posting what people are already watching. Oh, it's something I could talk about in hours of length, but the dishes are done, so that means this video is done. Thanks for watching, y'all.